The Lantern Rite Festival is bad. While yes, it's cool that MiHoYo gave us more things to do in the game, and events are always appreciated, this one particularly has me a bit disappointed. Let me just say the presentation is great, but where I feel like it's lacking is in the gameplay itself. The one thing that I'm most disappointed in is probably the theater mechanicus and how boring it is. What's going on, kings, queens, and majesties? My name's the King Fenrir, and today I'm going to be talking about how garbage the Lantern Rite Festival is so far. Before we get too far in, make sure you guys leave a like, hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell icon, and if you like me, be sure to check out my Twitch where I stream Genshin practically every day. Alright, let's get into it. Let me just say, I am aware of the fact that the event has only just gotten started, but in this video I'm gonna prove to you that no matter how much further into the event we get, these opinions will still stand. Let's start off with a little overview as to what the event is. The Lantern Rite Festival is a special event that takes place once per year in Liyue, and during the event you can earn Festival Fever for completing requests in the Lantern Rite Tales section. It is important to increase your Festival Fever as it grants you access to more of the event. There is a Zhao Market, which is the place where you can exchange peace talismans, the event currency, to acquire a bunch of items. This market will get more things on the 1st, 5th, and 9th days. With all that out of the way, let me go ahead and start giving you my thoughts on these things. First off, the Lantern Rite Tales is good for what it is. I can't exactly ask them to bring a memorable questline for each of these requests. However, I do still wish they did have more of that. Now on to the main thing I have an issue with. I get that this is their first attempt at really doing something like this in Genshin, so I'm understanding as to that, and they even give us the disclaimer at the start of the event with this character letting us know that this is a work in progress, so I'm not faulting them completely here. I do still want to get my thoughts out about this though. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the problems with this game mode. First, it's too easy. Let me explain why this is the case. Turrets do all the work. Us not being able to do damage leaves this effort all for the turrets, and this means we're useless unless we're causing elemental effects that will cause the turrets to do bigger elemental reactions. I guess this is kind of okay because of the fact that they want us to use our charge attacks to stop enemies from moving forward or use our elemental skills in creative ways, ergo Gene. Adding on to the list, another thing that makes it unfun is that the type of enemies that break through the portal always equals 1. It doesn't matter if it's a rune guard, a slime, or an abyss mage. They're all worth the same amount. It doesn't punish you for missing a huge target, thus there's no risk for letting something by, even if it's a rune guard. This means there's no sense of urgency to prioritize targets over one another, which makes it boring. Another thing is, no matter how much harder the game gets in terms of level, as long as our turrets are up to par and leveled up, there will never be an issue in terms of difficulty because our damage will always be there. You could argue that you need to know where exactly to place your turrets, but I'll be honest, I've only ever placed the turrets right at the front and right in the middle, and I've stopped every enemy from getting by. With this being the case, I can't imagine it's going to be an issue at a higher difficulty. Moving on from the fact that it's easy, it's also predictable. I guess this adds to that, but still, it's predictable. Usually in a tower defense, it's good to have information on how the enemies are going to move, where they're going to spawn, and even how many are going to spawn at a time. But in Theater Mechanicus, this leaves for bland and unengaging gameplay. Let me explain a little. At the start of each round, you can see each type of enemy that would appear, including their elements and what type of enemy it's going to be. Alright, great. Now you know the elements and type of enemies that are coming. You can change your turrets around. Perfect. This is normal tower defense stuff. This stuff isn't horrible, but even if you have one turret of each element, you're going to be covered and gonna be able to take care of any enemy as long as your turrets are up to par. Now there's also the factor that there is no swarming. What do I mean by swarming? I mean enemies don't just come out of the portal non-stop. They only spawn after one another dies. Not only this, but the enemies seem to spawn specifically on one side or the other, meaning the harder enemies will spawn on one side and the easier ones will spawn on the other. There's no shifting back and forth. It makes it predictable, not fun, not engaging. I'm telling you, while you're playing the game mode, there's really nothing to do. All you have to do is set up your turrets before the wave begins. By the end of wave 1, you're usually more than halfway through your turret placements, and by the end of wave 2, you should be completely okay to just AFK and let the turrets do their work. Now I'm going to touch on the mystic arts. This is a great idea. It gives each wave the feeling of uniqueness, and it makes it so that you have to put some thought into what you're building up and helps you decide where to put your resources towards. However, some of these arts are useless, such as the ones of removing the amount of enemies that pierce the portal. It's irrelevant. By the end, you can completely max out the amount of points you get from this, even if you don't get a perfect run. Alright, you can argue that it's usable for some people. Maybe not everybody can figure it out, but I promise you, if you have your turrets leveled up, it won't be a problem. But there are still other things that the Mystic Arts does do right. The fearless challenges are very cool contributions. They spice up the challenge, they're very small buffs to monsters, and at least at low level, they kind of seem very cool and very detrimental potentially. But once again, the turrets take care of any issue that presents itself. For tower defense games, they can of course feel passive, so gameplay should be designed with features that give the players stuff to do, stuff to think about, and stuff to make them feel a part of it. The content and difficulty, all of that stuff should start simple and gradually progress. It should definitely keep going and increasing over time, keeping players engaged and having fun. Doing it the way they're doing it now does not make that the case. Starting with the difficulty for one day makes it boring. It doesn't make me want to log back in the next day. All this is enough to make my blood boil a little bit because there's so much potential here, and I know MiHoYo has it in them, and I hope after this event they take a look at it and they make it better. But I also have some recommendations. One major change I would make would be making it so turrets don't place at their highest level. They should make it so that you can place the tower at level 1 and make it so you have to build and upgrade those turrets as you receive more build points. This would help keep people focused and active in the combat. During the waves, they would not just be AFKing after placing all their turrets at the start. Following that change, another one would be to allow the increase in turrets placed. If they all start at the lowest level, then allowing us to place more would not be too detrimental to the difficulty in terms of the combat. Another change I would make is you can make it so that there's a fickle effect every wave. This would allow for greater rewards and would keep each wave fresh and unique. Another one is maybe keep the enemy elemental type hidden. That would make it so that players need to pay attention during combat and swap out their turrets need be. Another thing is, as enemies spawn, maybe switch the portals that they come out of. Don't have them come out of the same type of portals each time. Instead of all the hilly churls coming out of the left portal, maybe have some come out of the left, some come out of the right, slimes in between. Just have it random and sporadic. Lastly, I would make it so that players can do damage. I know. I understand that allowing players to do damage can potentially be very broken, considering that we have players one-shotting Dvalin, but this can be mitigated by scaling the damage and putting a cap to it or a setting to make it go to a certain percentage. This would reward players for having their characters built up, but would also make it more enjoyable to be able to single-handedly stop a big Ruin Guardian from getting through the portal last second. These are just some basic ideas. If you guys have any, please let me know in the comments down below. I have a lot of faith in MiHoYo, do not get me wrong. You are critical of things that you love, alright? This little rant wasn't me coming at their throats and saying they did a garbage event, they did a horrible job. This has potential and it's just getting started. Genshin Impact is so young and there's so much promise. This is just the start and I know it's gonna be better going down the line, but I just wanted to get these thoughts out there. And that's it from me, Kings, Queens, and Majesties. That's all I got for you today. If you liked the video, make sure you leave a like. If you like me, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on that bell icon. Make sure to check out my Twitch. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one.